Duel is a movie starring Dennis Weaver, directed by Steven Spielberg. It is Steven Spielberg's very first feature-length film. It was released in 1971 and was fairly successful, as it pretty much launched Steven Spielberg's career as a filmmaker. I don't have the exact numbers on its box office or critical responses, but I can guess from where he is almost 50 years later as a director that it was positive. Now, Duel, I watched Duel about a week ago, or more probably, more than a week ago probably, and it sat with me for a while, and I gotta be honest with you guys, Duel is probably the worst movie ever made, and that's because it's not 1971 anymore. As a modern movie from the year 2020, it's probably the worst movie ever made. And back in 1971, there were other movies that were good. Like, but I guess this was the first movie that you could really say was a true 70s movie. And what I mean by that is that films such as like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, which only came out about 5 years before, are very different in the way that they were made. That movie is distinctly a 1960s movie, as this movie, Duel, is a distinct 1970s movie. And while I would say as a filmmaker's first movie, I would say it's not bad, I suppose. But as a movie itself, if we're not going to give him brownie points for this being his first movie and having a low budget, I would say that this movie is indeed the worst movie I have ever seen in my life. And I've seen a lot of bad movies. I've seen The Last Airbender. It was bad. So, to the meat of the movie, that I've beaten up a bunch, to the meat of the movie, it's basically about this guy who's going on a road trip. We don't know why. It's most likely for business, judging by his attire. But he encounters this beaten up old monster truck, semi-truck rather, that is kind of depicted as a monster. And it chases him all across the road, wherever he was going. Chases him to a small town, to a gas station, and it just taunts him, waits for him, and eventually tries to kill him. We know that there's a person inside this truck. We never find out who that person is, but it is a person. So, why is this movie bad? I'll say this movie's bad just because of very simple reasoning. It's boring. It's not entertaining at all, as like a movie should be. And the characters are not intriguing at all. I'm not rooting against the main character, but I'm also not rooting for the main character. I couldn't care less whether he dies or lives, whether what he is feeling as he's being chased, whether it be fear, anxiety, whether he's nervous. You can tell that he's feeling all of these things, but I just didn't care. Maybe it was the fact that I was sleep deprived when I watched this movie, but I stayed up for the entirety of it, and I was not intrigued, not on the edge of my seat. I was just watching it to watch it, because it was Steven Spielberg's first movie. And if a movie like this can be watched because of the high pedigree of its maker, then I think it can be panned because it's failed to live up to the expectations that people have set upon it. So many people have reviewed it just in the 21st century so far because it's Steven Spielberg's first movie. seems like every time he releases another movie, people are out there reviewing Amblin and Duel. And I don't know why. Maybe it's the same reason I watched it. Because it's his first movie, and Steven Spielberg is fresh on the mind whenever he releases a new movie. But this movie was not entertaining. It wasn't intriguing. I didn't care who the truck driver was. I didn't care when the movie ended. I was just glad that I didn't have to sit there any longer. It's only an hour and a half, but it could easily feel like it's 3 hours long. It's depending on your state of mind and what you expect to get out of this movie. I expected, I don't know what did I expect? I expected a movie that would be more than what its budget suggested. But this movie, Duel, was exactly what its budget suggested. And it's exactly what you would expect from a first-time filmmaker, as Steven Spielberg was when he made this film almost 50 years ago. I'm going to give Duel a D